Well, it's been a really long, cold winter here in Australia, and with spring in the air, it's time to wrap up the season. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'll be wrapping up my winter reading, and stick around because I'll also be revealing my book of the season. Now, in June, July and August I read 15 books, which is slightly down on what I would normally read, but various factors contributed to less reading for me, including the virus that shall not be named, and just mental fatigue as well, which didn't really help. But I did have a good time with what I did read. So let's kick it off with the first book, and that is Sackett's Land by Louis L'Amour. This was read as part of the June on the Range project that I was lucky to participate in this year, and I decided to read the Sackett Family Saga series as part of that project, and I ended up reading 3 of these. I was captivated from page 1 because Louis L'Amour's writing style is so accessible, and it hasn't really aged either, and he writes really good action scenes. I was really impressed with it, and I've read the 2 follow-up ones, which I'll talk about in a minute, but looking forward to reading more of the Sackett books in the future. But had a really good time with the project. Now, within the project, I just had to squeeze in Tom Clancy's Flashpoint, written by Don Bentley. This was a very strong entry into the Ryanverse. Now, I had previously been very outspoken by saying that you know, with Don Bentley's previous entries, that he wasn't a strong contributor to the series. I take it back. He has actually outdone himself with this book. I was really impressed with his writing. I finally realized that he gets the characters very well now. So it took him a little while to get up to that standard, but I think he's there. And I really enjoyed his contribution for this one. It was very addictive, it was compulsive, and he wrote the character of Jack Ryan Jr. very well. And I'm looking forward to his follow-up book, which I have bought just this week actually, which is called Weapons Grade, which is the next Jack Ryan Jr. novel in the hugely successful series, my favourite thriller series of all time. And I'll be getting to this one very soon, and I just can't wait. Okay, now the next one was the follow-up Sackett book to the Far Blue Mountains, which follows on with Barnaby Sackett's adventures and perils and danger and fights and all sorts of things, which I thought was a very strong follow-up, and was actually in many ways better than the first one. The next book I read was the 3rd Sackett book, The Warrior's Path, which placed a heavy focus on Barnaby Sackett's 2 sons. One son in particular who has to get to the bottom of what's happening with white slavery, which takes him to the pirate capital Port Royal in the Caribbean, which was fun to read about that location. Just something a little bit different than being set just in England or the east coast of the US. The next book I read was Dark Vacancy by Michael Robertson Jr. This was the 4th book in the hugely successful and hugely addictive Lance Brody Supernatural series, which I'm absolutely loving at the moment. I'm trying to get to the remaining entries, the last few books, because Michael Robertson has actually kindly agreed to let me be a beta reader for book number 7. So I have to get books number 5 and 6 read ASAP, and when I do get to them, which won't be too far away, I'm going to read them back to back because they are something special. With this particular entry, I am behind on my reviews. I've read it a little while ago, but just haven't recorded the review yet. But I will say that it is a very strong entry into the series. It introduces a new power that Lance has in this one, which involves time travel, which is very intriguing. I really liked with this one how Michael had subplots featured throughout as well, and focused on other characters. So Lance wasn't entirely in the spotlight for the whole book himself, and there was other developments with his relationship with Leah as well, which I'm keen to find out how that pans out in the next 2 books. So bring it on. I will have the Dark Vacancy review up soon, not quite sure when, but I just have to find some time to record it. Alright, the next book I read was Countdown by James Patterson, co-written by Brendan Dubois. This was about a CIA agent who gets caught up in a massive conspiracy involving the CIA and MI6, and she has to clear her name. You know, was it a fantastic book? No, it wasn't, but it was a decent read and a good distraction in between larger books. These books tend to read very, very quickly, and for the most part I did enjoy it, because with these James Patterson books, guys, the chapters, you can get an average of 100 to 130 chapters, so it's very, very easy to rip through, because you know, a chapter will only take you 2 minutes to read, and then you will read the next chapter and the next chapter, and before you know it, you've finished the thing. So they're a really good distraction, they're good value for money, and a lot of fun. Now, the next book I read was Obsessed by James Patterson, co-written by James O'Bourne. This was the next series in the Detective Michael Bennett series, which is one of my favourite series that James Patterson has ever put out, that aside from the Private series as well. But with this book, I have to be completely honest and say I was quite disappointed with it. And the reason I say that is because there were no real high stakes that Michael Bennett had to contend with. Okay, it was a serial killer, and I think the marketing was a little bit misleading about the book, because it did give the impression that the danger would be pretty close to home for Michael, because one of his daughters is the same age as some of the victims. Now, there was no danger for Michael Bennett's daughter. There were no stakes. The worst that happened was he got injected with an unknown drug that put him out of action for a day or two. Whoop-de-doo. I've known previous books to be absolutely brilliant with high stakes, where the emotions run high when you're reading, and I thought this one just was very, very, very lackluster. And it's probably the first book in the series that actually mildly disappointed me. You know, I always like reading about Michael and his family, and how he goes about solving the cases, but this one just didn't live up to the hype. A little bit disappointed, so I can only look forward to the next one in the series and hope it is a lot better. Okay, the next book I read was my first one that I reviewed on the channel by an independent author, called 6 Bullets to a Man, written by Jethro Wegener. He was kind enough to send me a copy of the book, paid for out of his own pocket from Amazon, delivered to my address, and I couldn't not review it for him on the channel and read it. And I was pretty impressed with it, because it you can see that it's been inspired by the Lee Child books and Jack Reacher's character. And I was pretty impressed with it. It was set in Mississippi in the 1970s, with racial tensions running high and a big conspiracy that his main character needs to get to the bottom of, which it was, you know, it wasn't a long read, but it certainly packed a bit of a punch, and I was pretty impressed with it, and reviewed it positively on the channel because it deserved it. The next title I read was a manga title, Vinland Saga Volume 1, which is a fantastic series. I'm loving it. I'm going to be getting into manga in a big way, and my next video, in fact, is going to be about what manga I plan on reading in the future, but I've already started this. Absolutely love it. The main character, the young boy, Thor's Finn, his father was murdered by a Viking warlord, and he becomes an orphan and goes off with this warlord's war party, and harbours thoughts of revenge for his father's death. And it's explored very, very well. The characters are great. I think the most impressive thing about this series is the illustrations, where the illustrations convey a lot of movement, especially in war and combat scenes, and I just flew through it in no time at all. There's quite a few more volumes to get. I do have volume 2 ready to go, and as soon as I get to it, I plan on enjoying that, but it looks to me as if it's going to be a brilliant series. Okay, another manga title I read was Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service Omnibus Volume 2. I've already got, let's see where I've got it, volume 3 right here,
ready to go. It only came in not long ago. I have ordered volume 4 as well. Basically what it's about is a group of college students who go into business, and their clients are actually corpses. So each of these members of this group have unique talents. You have an embalmer, you have a one character who has a divining tool to find the corpses, and you also have another one who speaks to the corpses as well. And what these corpses do, the soul lingers for a little while, and the soul communicates to the main character and imparts final wishes. So the corpse's soul will say, I want to be buried next to my wife, or what have you. Thrown into the mix is one of the characters has an alien sock puppet, which sounds absolutely absurd, but it works for the series because it provides a lot of comic relief, and the one-liners that this sock puppet spits out are gold. And I'm just completely charmed by this series. I absolutely love it. It's a lot of fun. I like reading about what their next case will be, and all the perils along the way. But it's just a fun series, and not really well known either. It's not really spoken about much on YouTube, but the horror elements are fantastic, and the illustrations are great. So really looking forward to reading more of that in the future as well. The next book I read was Yellowface, which I reviewed on the channel, by Rebecca F. Kuang. She wrote Babel last year, which I plan on reading as well. I'm curious about that one. But this one explored the writing world and how the main character, Juniper, stole her friend's manuscript and made it her own, because Athena had actually died. And before the corpse was cold, she actually took the manuscript from her study and made it her own, and tried to and got it published. And it's just one whole big defense testimony on Juniper's part to explain why she did what she did. And in the review, I mentioned how guilty I felt, feeling sorry for her because she was trying to justify her actions. And the twist at the end was, pretty meh, actually. Nothing really exciting. It wasn't nail-biting or anything like that, but gave a really good snapshot on how the publishing industry works as well, which was interesting to read about. Now, the next one I read, this was on a whim I read this one. It's called Thornhill, and it's got a lot of illustrations in it. It's about an orphan girl who stays in this orphanage and is gaslit by one of the girls in there who has an evil streak, and it just goes into detail on how she's trying to fit in, and what life is like in this orphanage, and how she's bullied and things like that. And it was a fun read, and it was a short read as well, but very, very interesting, and I will review that one on the channel at some point as well. Okay, now the last 3 books I read, I had to read these because with the release of this book, Holly, just this week by Stephen King, this is a book I've been looking forward to. Now, to be perfectly honest, I weren't looking forward to it when it was first announced, because I just didn't know Holly's character. So I thought to myself, look, time's ticking and the book is nearly out. I better get my ass in gear and read the Bill Hodges trilogy, because I hadn't read it before. Shame on me, because I wanted to get to know what Holly Gibney's character was like before I read this latest book. And I'm so glad I read the Bill Hodges trilogy, which I plan on reviewing on the channel soon as well. But I binged it back to back. I absolutely loved it, and I can't believe I waited this long to read it. I just have nothing but good things to say about it, and I'm not going to say too much about it today, because I want to go into a bit of detail in my review. So I'll be reviewing the trilogy as a whole, because it does read as one big massive story. Alright, so now we come to the book of the season. Now, this one was a pretty easy pick. Okay, Dark Vacancy came in a very, very close second spot, but the first place had to go with the second book in the Bill Hodges trilogy, Finders Keepers. I read this book in 2 days. It was absolutely fantastic. I was addicted from page 1 and looked for every opportunity to get stuck in and finish it, because the characters were great. The the crime writing was bang on, and it has to be one of Stephen King's best books I've ever read. Now that's a big call, but I actually absolutely loved that book, and you know, if it keeps you up late and things like that, it has to be a #1 spot, right? But very, very happy that I finally got to read the Bill Hodges trilogy, and it was on my winter list actually, which I'm pretty happy about completing as well. And now I know that I know Holly's character just a little bit more going into this new book, which I'm about 50 pages in, and I'm enjoying it so far. Now people already, I'm trying to avoid spoilers on YouTube, but people are saying how it's heavily political, how Stephen King's putting across his political views and things like that. I haven't found that yet, but I'll just battle through that and get to the story. So looking forward to telling you all about it on the channel as well. But there you go, guys, that is my winter reading wrapped up. Had an absolute blast, even though I didn't read as much as I thought, but there's a lot of books I've got to get through between now and the end of the year. Now just on this, that was my last seasonal TBR, or seasonal plans for reading, because I have officially become a mood reader now. So I'm not constrained by anything. I'm not putting out TBR videos at the moment. I'm just you know, when I wake up in the morning, I'll read what I feel like, and it could be picking up Shogun for the first time, or it could be just reading a few manga titles, who knows. But I like that spontaneity and not having to think, oh geez, I have to read this book this month, or I have to read that book this month. I spent a lot of time doing it that way, and it just wasn't helping, because I would put a group of TBR titles for one particular month in the past, and I'd be lucky to read 2 of them because other things distracted me. So there you go, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Offer up any feedback in the comments below. I'll always respond to that. And until the next video, guys, I'll see you later.